Face the State.
Hello and welcome to this week's Face the State. I'm Tim McGonigal. When the call goes out to 911, residents expect someone to come to their aid. In Montana, if you live outside city limits, first responders are oftentimes volunteers. These men and women leave their jobs and families when the call for need comes in. And this week on Face the State, we're sitting down with two volunteer firefighters to talk about what it takes to do the job and some of the increasing challenges that they are facing. So we're joined today by Mike DeShays. He's the fire chief at the Black Eagle Volunteer Fire Department, and also Eric Tillman, who is chief at the Cascade Volunteer Fire Department. Thanks, guys, for taking time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So last year, I think when we talk about fires in Montana, we look at last year, which was an extraordinarily busy year for fire departments around the state. Your department's included, of course. So how has this year compared to last year? What was the impact of last year's fire season on your departments, and what's it been like so far this year?
Well, I know on our side, fires have been they're down, and it's been nice. Last year wore out our department. I mean, we were going on calls left and right. 1 week we had 21 calls, and normally we get 21 calls in about 4 months. So it's one of those that people got tired. People were tired of hearing the siren, tired of smelling smoke, and I think everybody's kind of happy right now that it's slowed down. We've had a nice wet spring, and summer's been pretty mild, and now we're getting into that fall and still green, and I kind of like that.
Yeah. Mike, how about you?
For fire-wise, wildland fires, it hasn't been as much for us. We've had a few, even with the dry conditions that are out there, but we as a department have been busy. We average on, I think, about 3 to 4 calls a day for our department.
Okay. Now, both of you work in volunteer departments. You do fight fires, of course, but you do so much more than that. So what types of calls do volunteer fire departments go on besides fires?
For our department, for Black Eagle, we respond to everything. Medicals, injury accidents, minor emergencies, hazmat calls. Just, like a normal paid department.
Yeah. But of course you're unpaid.
Yes,
yeah.
Unpaid.
Eric, what about?
We do a lot of landing mercy flight, a lot of going up and down the interstate when we have car accidents. That's the majority of our calls is doing a lot of that. And the wildland kind of falls back, which is nice that we're not always fighting fire, but it again gets tiring.
And it's kind of interesting too, because your department in Cascade, about 25 miles from Great Falls, and you in Black Eagle, you're just right next door. So you're more of a rural fire department, I guess you could say. I mean, you're both rural fire departments, but you're closer to the city. So you mentioned the mercy flight and that sort of thing.
Well, and a lot of times we have about 20 to 30 minutes to play if we have a car accident before we get the ambulance or even the mercy flight to land. So there's time for us as a fire department to kind of help everybody as much as we can and kind of help them in that stage of trying to figure out what's going on. So.
All right. Now you both have full-time jobs. I'll ask you both, what do you do for a full-time job? Although I know, Eric, what you do, but how difficult can it be to leave on a call?
You know, the nice thing is at the school, I work at the high school in Cascade, and most times we have enough people that respond to calls to where I don't have to worry about it. Again, we are volunteer, and that's what the community's got to kind of remember is we're all volunteers, and we have to make money, and we have to have our jobs, and that comes before sometimes fire, unless it's going towards your house, and then you.
Mike, what about you?
I'm a traffic specialist with the city of Great Falls. Okay. The division that I'm in, traffic division, we're a small division. There's like 5 or 6 of us. So it all depends on vacation time, if I have it. I base it on what the call is and time of day, and then how many people are responding to the call. Usually if it's a severe call, like a big wildland fire or a big structure call, and I hadn't seen or heard anybody from the department, responding, then I'll ask, my boss if I can have the time off to go and help the community out.
From talking to your fellow fire chiefs and firefighters throughout the state, do you get that sense that they kind of deal with the same issues as far as getting time off and being able to? So it's probably a statewide.
Yeah, I've talked to several people, even in my department, as well, that I get a lot of. My boss says, "Heck no, no, no." I hear a lot of no's. It's frustrating because I know those guys are frustrated because they want to, serve their community and help out, and they join the fire department because that's what they love doing.
Great.
I think that's one of the issues that we have as volunteer fire departments is having people that are able to respond during the work hours. At night, I know on our department we end up getting probably 7-8 people to respond to a lot of calls at night, but during the day, trying to get 1 or 2 to go out, that's the issue. I mean, it's tough.
Also, you deal with weekends, and during summer there's vacations. I mean, you guys have families too. You want to take vacations and have your weekend time. That can pose a problem too, I'm sure.
Oh, it does, and that's kind of goes back to communicating with everybody in our department, saying, "Hey, we're heading out this weekend. The other people stay," and it kind of works out that way.
Yeah, and another thing too, it's I think Eric can agree with me. It's a young man job, but there is a lot of older men and women that are doing this job, but it gets to the point that it's very taxing and very physical work, and that's the one thing that's hard is trying to get this younger generation, interested in doing what we do for free.
Yeah, I was going to say you do rely on community members volunteering to serve as the firefighters. So, as you said, you've got a lot of older guys, probably nearing retirement. The need for volunteers is still there. How do you get people interested in joining the force? What are some of the things that you guys do to try to get the younger guys involved?
Well, with Black Eagle, we really haven't had to, advertise out. A lot of people know other people and find out that we're volunteering, and then kind of word of mouth that way. I get calls, it seems like every week to every other week, somebody is interested in joining. Other departments like Gore Hill, they do kind of a hiring community network thing once a year. They take applications in, and then just like a regular job process, you go in and interview. We kind of do the same thing. We interview people, and because I think you can also agree this job's not for everyone.
Yeah. How about you, Eric? How do you?
A lot of it's word of mouth. Talking to people in the community, if they hear that fire siren go off for a long period of time, they kind of realize that we're getting down on people. So then we'll get a rush of a few applicants here and there. But it kind of nice on our side is we're pretty stable. We get about maybe 1 or 2 people every year that apply, and the rest stay on. They enjoy it, so we try not to work too hard and have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah. How for someone who is interested, should they just contact their volunteer fire department and say, "Hey, I'm interested," and then chances are they can set up a meeting or maybe fill out some sort of application? Is that basically how it works?
Yeah. The one thing I do is when people ask me, the first thing I ask them is, "Where do you live?" And we kind of drew the line in the sand, sort of. And we picked Central Avenue as kind of our basis. If you live, one side or the other. If you're closer to a different department, I would recommend them to go to that, to that department.
The Montana Volunteer Fire Association actually has a way for people to go on there, and they'll get you in touch with the department that's closest to you. So that seems to be working well. I'll get probably 2-3 calls a month from Helena and tell them which department that people need to go to, where they're living at. So it's a good way. And if nothing else, go to the local departments themselves and just ask.
Okay. What are the requirements and what type of training is involved?
Well, there's state mandates 30 hours a year of training.
Okay.
Our department, and I do believe, well, Vaughn, I'm not sure on Gore Hill or San Cooley, but we put on a fire academy that teaches them firefighter 1 and 2. Start from the basics and work up. They also have to go through a basic wildland class, and then we have refreshers after that. And then we meet every Tuesday. So depending on the month, we're training 3 to 4 times a month, just basic day-to-day operations.
Okay.
And that kind of depends on every department. I know our department, we have a business meeting on the 2nd Monday, and then on the 4th Monday we have our training. And we do that every month of the year, and sometimes we get some extra ones in there, but trying not to, again, doing the 30 hours and trying to keep people interested, but keeping them safe, keeping them ready for fire, and it's a big challenge.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you both how long you've both been in the firefighting, in the volunteer firefighting. How long have you been doing this?
So I've been on the department since 2006,
Okay.
and then I got demoted to chief about 6 years ago.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
I started back in 2003, I do believe. I started with Carter Fire Department.
Okay.
And then I moved to Great Falls in 2004 and started up with Black Eagle in 2004 and worked my way up to where I'm at now.
Yeah, and during that time, have you seen the landscape of firefighting change, and if so, how?
I think it changes all the time. We've got better equipment. We're keeping people safe. We're learning from every fire that's out there, and being able to take those lessons from each fire and building kind of the safety protocols and making sure everybody gets home, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the technology is changing so fast, but then some of the ways that the old timers did it, we kind of go back to that. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. The big push now is health, all the carcinogens and decontaminating after a structure fire. It's just, and then getting into a shower, getting clean clothes, and getting out of the all your soot, and try not to bring that home. And like I said, it's just technology has increased, and we just, in the newer construction, the houses that now are burning faster, just because it's a lighter material. So we fight things a lot differently. It's not just anymore running in and putting out the fire. We got to sit back and think about what we got to do, because ultimately we're in charge of the fires, and we're putting people in jeopardy to go put that fire out.
And getting back to the training, there's different types of fires. There's your wildland fire, and there's also the house fire. So you guys have to be
fires.
There's car fires. So you guys have to be prepared for all those different types of fires that can break out.
Yep. We had one last year that was a hybrid car, and putting water on it actually made it hotter because of all the batteries. So we had to put foam on it, and it's just learning from what's happening. And what the technology is coming towards us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When you say about the new hybrid cars and the newer cars, they have more airbags in it. The cars from the 70s and 80s didn't have a thing called airbags. And you could go right ahead and, if you had to cut somebody out, you could just start cutting. Now you have to tear the car apart literally before you start cutting, so you know where everything is.
Yeah. Getting back to the health aspect, I think that's interesting. Do you think that might be a reason why maybe some younger people aren't as excited to get into firefighting as maybe you guys were when you joined?
I don't know.
It's a good question. Because it's out there, and there's more and more studies that are coming out, and there's negative effects on doing this to ourselves multiple times. I could see where that would be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I read all the time seeing, this firefighter died of a heart attack. A chief died coming back from a call from a heart attack. Cancer, that's a big one there. With all the chemicals that are coming off from the smoke that just, our body is absorbing. I haven't talked to many of the younger, youths that are giving an interest or anything and have brought that up, but you do see it a lot in the news. Sure. And some of the fire sites of all the fire deaths. You kind of keep it in the back of your mind, but when the bell and the tones drop, that kind of goes out the door and away you go.
But overall, I would think that with these health problems, although they're unfortunate, bringing them to light is probably a good thing, bringing more attention to it, and hopefully getting maybe more research dollars and maybe more equipment and that sort of thing.
Keeping everybody safe. I mean, that's the thing, is we all want to, we want to go protect our community, but we also want to come home.
Yeah.
And we want to stay healthy when we come home for our families too.
Sure. Well, Mike, I know that there was a legendary firefighter in your department by the name of Tom Martin, who was the chief for many years. He passed away. You have stepped into his role as chief. Talk about the loss of a person like Tom. How does that affect your department? And
it was a huge loss.
Yeah.
Huge loss. He was a mentor to a lot of guys. There wasn't a time that I can't remember on a fire he'd pull somebody out, and tell them, hey, this is what you do, da 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 da, and you had to really pay attention to sometimes, because he would go talk real quick and you just kind of shake your head and just nod, and but he was such like I said, a pillar of our community, the county. At one time, he was the president of the Rural Fire Council for many years.
Yep.
And he was my chief for 8 years. It was just he had his finger in just about everything. He was part of the Civic Club meeting in Black Eagle. He was part of the CAT committee with Calumet. The Rural Fire Council. There were so many other things. He and his wife were the co-founders of the Black Eagle Parade. I mean, he was involved with the community in one way or another. Yeah.
And even all the departments in the county.
Right.
I mean, he was always willing to. When I became chief, I mean, he was there telling me, "Hey, this is what you got to do." And it was always kid. He never called me by my name, and it just made me laugh every day. He's like, "Kid, this is what you got to do," and you learned from all those old chiefs, and that's, we're getting younger, which is kind of nice as chiefs, but we're losing a lot of the knowledge of all those fires that they've been on, and Tom, I don't remember exactly when he joined the department, but he had so many years, and it was kind of, when Tom spoke, you listened. Because he's seen so much and had been, in so many different parts of a fire department. That, he grabbed your attention, and the witty side of him, the comical side. Yeah. We have one picture, I do believe it was we were doing a control burn, and he found a little kid's bike, and he decided to hop on it, flat tires and everything. He was acting like he was riding around on it. And it was just little stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Eric, you mentioned too the working with other departments, and I'm sure this is the case, obviously, across the whole state of Montana. Sometimes when we hear the call for a fire, and there's 4 or 5, maybe more different departments that are paged out. So talk about working together with the other fire departments and the mutual aid agreements.
Well, and the nice thing is we do have a mutual aid agreement with everybody. And getting onto these fires, all of us want to get it put out as fast as we can, again, safely. And being able to say, hey, Ulm, I need you, or Black Eagle, hey, we need your water tender, is huge. Because The thing that we have in all these rural departments is the lack of funding a lot of times. But when we're all together and Black Eagle might have the best water tender, we'll call for it and they'll bring it out and help other departments, just because we might not have that capability. And that's kind of nice, I think. Manpower, being able to have the manpower. Again, you know, when it's during the day and there's only a few people that are responding from our department, there's other departments coming to help, and vice versa. I mean, it's nice. And we haven't had any issues to where people get on scene and they want to take charge and fight for charge or fight out whose fire it is. We're all just there to put it out and move on to the next.
True definition of teamwork, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned you guys can also, I'm sure you remember that too, like 2 months from now, if you used his tender and he came and helped you, yep. When he calls and needs something, you're going to jump right in and help him. And
that's it. And the kind of the nice thing too, we're on the far end of the county where we're at. And when Ulm or any of the other departments, Gore Hill, take off and head over to this side of the county, we'll actually kind of backfill Ulm's station just to make sure that their community's safe while they're gone. And that's kind of a really, we work together really well. And that's nice. We meet once a month as fire chiefs of Cascade County, and we talk to each other. And we know kind of what's going on. And the other thing we've been trying to do, and been pretty successful, is we're doing county-wide trainings to where our guys are even getting together, and guys and gals, and meeting and know who's out there, and we know what trucks are out there. Just that open line of communication that's out there.
Yeah. We mutual aided here not too long ago, south of town, on a structure fire. Actually came in as a house exploded. And we were paged out with Gore Hill. Where it was at, assumed it was Gore Hill, got on scene, and it was ended up actually, I guess, being with a city district. You know, and that was our first time that we mutual aided with the city for one of their calls. But at the time, you know, there was a little bit of confusion of, you know, we didn't know whose, but we're like, you know, doesn't matter. We can sort it out later. You know, that's always been that way.
Okay. Well, what are the needs beyond volunteers? For instance, how can the community help statewide volunteer fire departments?
Big one is funding.
Sure.
You know, we don't have many trees. And equipment is expensive. Our bunker gears, they're good for 10 years, and then we have to get new. Well, we just bought new bunker gear here not too long ago, and I think it was about $2 grand, $2,500 just for one set. Wildland gear, you're looking at, you know, $300–400 for, you know, a pair of pants and shirt and helmet. Other equipment, you know, the Jaws of Life, you know, you're looking at, you know, several $1,000s. You know, financial donations go a long way. You know, if we're on a fire a long time, and let's say Sally 1 can't come to us, you know, if people want to bring us, you know, water or coffee or food, it would be, you know, greatly appreciated.
Sometimes you guys are out there all night long, or all day long, I guess. And so. But
the best thing I would suggest, if people want to do the food part or you know, drinks to us, is to bring it to the fire station. We don't want, you know, people to get in the way of our operations. That just, you know, puts them in hazard, to where now you just created another problem that we're dealing with this problem. So we, you know, if people want to help out that way, we ask, you know, get a hold of their local, you know, station.
And you bring up a good point, Mike, that we seem to talk about a lot, but maybe not enough, because it's still an issue, and that's people who unfortunately do get in the way. When you guys are heading out to a call, there's some rules that they need to follow, and you guys need to get there as soon as possible. What are some of the issues that you face there?
There's several issues. One is people not moving to the right. And a lot of it, I don't know if it's these newer vehicles. They're so airtight that, you know, they cut a lot of this outside sound. If people just, pay attention when they see the red lights and move to the right, don't go to the left or stop right there in the middle of the road. It is a law that you have to yield and move to the right. If you see us and you're in the intersection, give us the right of way. We're asking for you guys to let us through. That, and I know everybody wants to see what's going on.
Sure.
Even me as a firefighter, listening to the radio and hearing other calls, I want to go and see it too. But we ask that people just stay away. And a great example was a couple years ago on the Vineyard 2 fire that burned, 17,000 acres. It came within I think a half block from the city, and our big issue there was we were evacuating everybody, but then we were getting people coming in to see how big this fire was, and that was hampering us from getting where we needed to get.
Great. Eric, I really wanted to quickly touch with you about what do you as a group of rural fire departments, volunteer fire departments, do as far as having a presence in Helena at the legislature? Do you guys have a presence there?
We actually, part of the Montana Volunteer Fire Association, they have a group that goes in and actually will lobby on our behalf as volunteer firemen. They're always seeing what bills are coming through and letting everybody know at the local level, hey, this is something we need to push, or this is something that is going to be bad for volunteer fire departments. So just having somebody, there's always somebody up there, which is nice. And all of us pay a little fee to the volunteer association, and it works out for us.
And the Montana Volunteer Fire Association, if people want to learn more about that, or like you said, maybe learn about maybe what it takes to become a firefighter, can they just log on to their website?
Yep, just put it in your search engine, the Montana Volunteer Fire Association, and the link should come right up. So, and it's pretty easy, and you can go how to join a fire department.
All right. Real quickly, I wanted to ask you too, I should have asked this at the beginning of the show, but why did you guys become firefighters?
I think from what my mom told me, ever since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. Was I wanted to be a firefighter and a paramedic, and on my day off I think I was supposed to be a cop, but so I ended up as a firefighter.
All right. How about you, Eric?
When I was a little kid, there was a big fire up in Blaine County that burned 170,000 acres in one night, and just seeing the raw power of a fire, and just wanted to help people. And I think that's the big thing, is just want to help my community, and it's one way I can give back. Yeah,
you guys, I know you're both close by as far as fire jurisdictions, but do you work a lot with other jurisdictions across the state? Do you have like maybe an annual meeting that you go with?
There's one every year, and it kind of offsets. We have a volunteer every other year, kind of a meeting, and then like this year we had the all chiefs meeting. So it was volunteer, paid departments, all meeting together.
Great.
So.
Well, our guests today have been Mike Deshays, the chief of the Black Eagle Volunteer Fire Department, and Eric Tillman of the Cascade Volunteer Fire Department. Guys, thank you so much for taking time to talk today, and best of luck.
Pleasure.
And we'll try to steer clear when you're headed to the fire.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
And thanks for watching this week's Face the State.
You've been watching Face the State, a presentation of MTN, the Montana